you mentioned certain trends. What trends are you foreseeing in terms of marketing, but in general, in terms of technologies?
Okay, this is my crystal ball aspect. So I suppose the first and obvious one is the trend to dematerialization and digitization of those remaining areas that could be and haven't been. The automation aspect becomes an important one to consider. And through that, we look at things like machine learning and the famous phrase of, well, we'll apply an AI algorithm to it, for good or ill. But in most instances, there are areas where technology can perform repetitive tasks much better than human beings. So the trends to automation, digitalization is a massive one which we have to cope with and indeed exploit, because there are lots of opportunities here. I think the other element is that the consumer, going back to your earliest question, has become very savvy. They understand the basics of marketing. If you happen to go through school, you probably get taught some of the basics in economics. So the customer now understands that there are implications to their activity. Their purchases, their consumption has an impact on the planet. And so the ethical side of marketing becomes very important, because you have to consider the impact that you have as a company on the finite resources. If you look at things such as the argument for the circular economies, and certainly in fashion, we need to seriously think about, do we actually need as many t-shirts and clothes as we purchase? So we need to think clearly about the ethical side of business. And I think the other element has to be that we see a change in demographics. The number of people in the marketplace, it may well decline in some countries. The demographic pattern will decline in terms of the ages that are dominant. And it's important to look at your local marketplace, not to take global statistics, because otherwise global statistics will tell you what's happening in America in most instances, or indeed perhaps even in China, but that might not be the same that's happening in Vietnam or in Germany or in the UK. So look at your local marketplaces, but demography is changing. And I think that's an important trend that you have to think about.
You're absolutely right. At the end of the day, it is about the customer. And that's quite an interesting insight, the fact that demography is changing. So in your opinion, you mentioned earlier that it's actually reducing.
Certainly in some marketplaces in Europe, the only thing that's kept the population going has been migration. Yeah. But the other aspect, which is an important one, is that people live longer. Taha, you and your colleagues may easily live to 100. And certainly anyone born since about, I believe it's about 2006, has a nearly 60% chance of living to being over 100. Now that has tremendous change in the demand for different types of products, the different types of services, not just for the young people, who as a number may well grow, but for the older people, or the people who stay longer, but stay active as new drugs come on and new abilities to live a more healthy lifestyle. You may well find that there's a considerable opportunity in the marketplace for people being sold products into their 80s that you would have thought they would have given up when they were 50, historically speaking. Japan is always an interesting marketplace to look at from very many perspectives, but look at the demographics in Japan and look at the way they have responded. I think there are some interesting opportunities to be seen there.